Good evening, everyone. Live from New York City, this is Stone Gasman back for another 50th anniversary commentary. And tonight, Halloween night, I think is very appropriate to do a horror film from 1971. And it came down to a couple of nominations, but Let's Scare Jessica to Death was considered, as were a few others. However, I think that the one that I think I should go forward with is Twitch of the Death Nerve, aka A Bay of Blood, directed by Mario Bava, which was released in Italy actually in September of 1971. US release date, I'm not necessarily sure. But that's kind of irrelevant because yeah, I mean, this was a very controversial film when it was released in Bava's native Italy in 1971. Now, the first time I saw Twitch of the Death Nerve, and I'm going to be watching it on Shudder, just to let everybody know, so everybody can queue up their copies at the very, very beginning and prepare yourself. We'll start the movie in about 2-3 minutes. But I wanted to say first. That yeah, so this is going to be there's going to be more 50th anniversary audio commentaries to come throughout the rest of the month, not including Clockwork Orange, the Stanley Kubrick movie, also the Canterbury Tales, directed by Pier Paolo Pasolini. I will be tackling that of all films. Steven Spielberg's Duel, Diamonds Are Forever, the James Bond movie from 1971, and plenty of others. So, I mean, it's going to be a fairly packed 2 months of commentaries coming. Not all of them will be 50th anniversary ones, but I mean, a lot of them will be. So, and a lot of preparation will be had for those. But tonight is going to be actually, just like I said, a lot of fun. We're going to be watching pretty much the prerequisite to the entire slasher genre. Anybody who has any knowledge of slasher films and horror films of the 60s and 70s should know who Mario Bava is, and should know that this film is landmark in terms of what it basically triggered 10 years later with Friday the 13th Part 1 and 2. There is a lot of Friday the 13th Part 1 and 2 in this movie now that I've rewatched it. I'm almost convinced this is a Friday the 13th movie with actually a clever plot, a bit complex of a plot, which I was a bit surprised here again. But I do think that it's an important film to see. I think it's a film that every Friday the 13th fan should see. It's certainly, I mean, anybody who has seen the Friday the 13th films many times, like I have, will notice many, many angles, many, many shots, many, many deaths that mirror exactly what would be put in those Friday the 13th films later. But I love those films. And before we press play here, um, I wanted to show off real quick that I do in fact have the Shout Factory Friday the 13th set. And I've seen all these films from these discs at least twice. Um, and I mean, this box set actually overall gets my seal of approval. I mean, we've had it for a year or 2 years now. And like I said, I've gotten so much out of it. I mean, I'm just grateful that this had the director's cut of Jason Goes to Hell, which had been missing on the previous box sets, which I never bought. I actually had a cheap Paramount set of all the Friday the 13th films. And it's really amazing because I'm trying to remember if throughout the 8-hour documentary, Crystal Lake Memories, if Twist of the Death Nerve, aka A Bay of Blood, was even ever mentioned. But here again, you look at this film now, especially if you're a Friday the 13th fan, there's a lot of connections. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and start the movie. Give everybody just a few more seconds here, but you should be looking at Kino Classics on the screen if you're going to be watching it on Shudder. And actually, yeah, so it is on Shudder for anybody that wants to watch it. Like I said, Kino Classics. We will press play on the count of three. So 3, 2, 1, and play. Turning the volume all the way down. Now, this is under the title of A Bay of Blood, and this was, I believe, the original title. I could be wrong. The thing is that here's exactly how I discovered this film. Now, when I was growing up, screenplay by Mario Bava, Joseph McLean, Filippo Tuni. Yeah, a lot of Italian names. I was about to say French. Claudine Auger is French, so Auger is French. So, and anyway, and I'm probably going to mess up these names. I'm not even going to bother. But okay, so Twitch of the Death Nerve. I grew up literally reading like cover to cover, Leonard Maltin's film and video guide. And Twitch of the Death Nerve, despite the fact that he always trashed the Friday the 13th films in his book. I mean the best review he gave to Jason Takes Manhattan, and that was 2 stars out of 4. So he is no fan of the Friday the 13th series. But when it comes to Mario Bava's Twitch of the Death Nerve, and yes, he listed it in his book under that title, he he basically gave it 3 stars out of 4 and said it was one of the most influential horror films ever made, and that alone was enough for me to say, you know what, I need to check it out. And then when I watched it in high school, director of photography Mario Bava, absolutely, that's something else to keep in mind. He is responsible for the photography and the direction, and also co-wrote the screenplay. And from what I understand, it was actually Italian producer Dino De Laurentiis who commissioned him to do this giallo film. And this was not Bava's first body count film, and I don't even believe it was his first giallo, although I'm not an expert, obviously. But I'm going into this, returning to it after 30 years because I haven't seen it since I got it from the library of all places. And a lot of these films which were not available at Blockbuster. I used to work at Blockbuster, and this was one movie we sure as hell would never have had on the shelves. I would go to the library and basically request to have these movies sent from other libraries, wherever they got them. I have no idea, but Mario Bava's Twitch of the Death Nerve was one of them, and it was in a plain black case, a plain black clamshell case, no label. I think at the time I was kind of wondering what I was getting myself into here. Now, luckily, I had seen the Friday the 13th movies already up until that time, and we're talking the early 90s here, when I was about 13, 14 years old, and I would get everything from the library, Twitch of the Death Nerve included. And anybody who's out in the chat, please let me know. I know that everybody else has probably already had plans for Halloween, and who wants to join me for Twitch of the Death Nerve? But I don't do much, so I just wanted to do a commentary tonight, and I figured this would be the perfect horror movie from 1971 to do that. Even if it's not the most famous, it's certainly the most influential. And actually, yeah, before I dive deep, let me look at something here real quick. Oh. Okay, so I'm looking at the horror films of 1971. Earlier in the year, I had already done The Abominable Dr. Phibes. That was actually the first 50th anniversary commentary I did. And also this year, we had The Black Belly of the Tarantula, Blood from the Mummy's Tomb, Blood on the Satan's Claw, The Cat of Nine Tails, the Dario Argento film, Countess Dracula, Crucible of Horror, Crucible of Terror, Ken Russell's The Devils, which I did a great commentary on earlier in the year. That was so much fun. I will be doing Steven Spielberg's Duel in a couple of weeks, and see Hands of the Ripper, directed by Peter Sasdy, The House That Dripped Blood, Lust for a Vampire, Let's Scare Jessica to Death. That was another one I considered for tonight. And Octoman, See No Evil, Straw Dogs, the Sam Peckinpah film, John Hoff's Twins of Evil, The Velvet Vampire, which I've already done a commentary on, and also Who Slew Auntie Roo and Willard. So those were most of the horror films that came out this year in 1971. But for Halloween night, I don't think I could have chosen a more perfect movie than Twitch of the Death Nerve. And we are approximately 5 minutes in for anybody that wants to be queued up. And this Italian countess who is disabled and in a wheelchair is about to be hanged in this spectacular opening sequence, which kicks off the most influential of all slasher films. And here again, it's like watching Friday the 13th with a complex plot, believe it or not. I mean, this is pretty much what exactly it is. But when I saw it in high school, I mean, maybe I was 13, 14 years old. I got it from the library, jet black tape, no labels. I was thinking, oh my God, I think I'm watching something I probably shouldn't be watching. And of course, that was always the thrill of watching Friday the 13th at that time. And the weird thing is that I wasn't a hardcore horror nut. I mean, I wasn't, I mean, believe me, when I was 10, 13 years old, 10, 11, 12 years old, I was watching, Chaplin and Hitchcock and Buster Keaton and W.C. Fields, Frank Capra. I mean, I was watching more of that stuff. I never got into Bava or Argento or anybody else associated with the giallo horror films. And it took me many, many, many years to go and appreciate these films. And especially after Thursday night when I saw Edgar Wright's Last Night in Soho, which is to me, it was an out of body experience. In my 35 years of going to movie theaters, that was probably one of my great theatrical experiences of my entire life. It is a film that honors giallo films. Edgar Wright loves horror films, and he loves giallo. And it's a ghost story mixed with time travel. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly encourage you to get tickets this week before it leaves theaters, because it's something you need to experience on the big screen. But it absolutely bolstered my love and appreciation of the giallo genre. And I had seen a few films before this. Funnily enough, when I was doing a Lucio Fulci retrospective a few years ago, I went back and looked at all his screwball comedies and rock and roll films of the 1960s and everything. And this guy was jumping around between a lot of stuff. And then you watch the New York Ripper and you're like, holy fuck, this guy. Now, ironically enough, there's approximately 13 deaths in this movie. Here, I guess, is the second one, if I didn't miss any so far. I mean, yeah, here we go, one, and then you just saw the second guy be stabbed. So there you go. We're not even 10 minutes in, and we already have 2 murders to kick this off. But I mean, when I saw it in high school, I didn't necessarily see all the Friday the 13th connections right away, and it was more of a process of discovering, this particular genre. This might have been the first giallo I've ever seen. In fact, I would put money down on that. But I had already seen stuff like the Canterbury Tales. I actually got Pier Paolo Pasolini's The Canterbury Tales just to prepare for it and to write about it when I was doing the actual stories in high school English class. And that's part of the reason why I'm more comfortable doing a commentary for that later in the year for the Pier Paolo Pasolini film. but that's going to be a challenge. That's really going to be a challenge for me. Certainly a much bigger challenge than this film, which you could sit back and enjoy all the elements that go into this genre, which here again I discovered for pretty much the first time, but I never really dived into it. I never did a deep dive. But after One Night in Solo, I'm ready to watch every giallo movie ever made, and that's how much I'm in love with the genre now. That's funny. I mean, when I see this was filmed and came out in 1971, but in many ways, it still is very reflective of the 1960s, as you can see here. And I was going to say Mario Bava's Blood and Black Lace is one of the major inspirations for Edgar Knight's One Night in Soho, among many inspirations. I mean, Argento is covered quite a bit in there as well. And Dario Argento actually went to the movie with his daughter Asia, and they both loved it. So, but I'm going to shut up about One Night in Soho at the moment because I don't want to give away too much, and I'm tempted to just talk about it all week, you know. But but the story behind Twitch of the Death Nerve is that apparently there's this rich countess who has this forest resort of sorts, a really nice house basically in the middle of nowhere. But she's near a lake. And there's supposed to be woods all around. But the astonishing thing about this movie, which I read just earlier today, is that they had so little vegetation and trees that you could hardly call it a forest. And so Bava had to resort to a lot of trick photography to make the viewer feel like they were in a forest in the middle of nowhere. And shockingly enough, I mean, that was one of the things that I think drew me to this film the first time was I was struck by how beautiful it was. Well, yeah, we also have to deal with octopuses quite a bit. You know what? I wasn't prepared for the octopuses or the octopi that should be the octopi that will be coming in this film. But yeah, this is supposed to be a lakeside resort in the middle of nowhere, essentially near a forest of some kind. And And I mean, you look around this entire resort, and it makes you think, yeah, oh, this could be Camp Crystal Lake. Why not? I mean, this could be Camp Crystal Lake, but here again, there'll be shots, and I'm going to point some out, and others I'll just ignore. But there are points all throughout this movie that scream Friday the 13th. And as a fan, I have to acknowledge that and celebrate that. And this is almost, I would almost be tempted to include this in a Friday the 13th film ranking system just because it's so damn close. But here again, it's kind of also its own thing. But yeah, the idea, one of the themes behind this movie is greed. The idea that there's apparently a number of individuals that want to get their grubby little hands on this lakeside property. And oh yeah, I want to do a shout out to Cornelius. Happy Halloween to you, sir. Yeah, we're just starting the Twitch of the Death Nerve commentary. We're at 13 minutes and 25 seconds in. Yeah, okay, yeah. The number 13 is going to show up numerous times as well, which is a bit freaky in a regard. That's what I'm saying. This movie not only inspired the slasher genre, but it practically wrote the rule book. It practically wrote everything about the genre. I'm sure the Friday the 13th creators watched this movie 1,000 times before they started shooting an inch of footage on their films because it's just too close. Oh, like I said, lots of octopi, lots of slimy octopi in this movie, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful. This wasn't just the first Mario Bava film I saw; it was my introduction to Italian horror. You know what? I think I saw Lucio Fulci's Zombie before I saw this, aka Zombie 2. I'm pretty certain that that was my introduction to Italian horror. Was the 1979 film Zombie, even though overseas it's known as Zombie 2, as a sequel to George Romero's Dawn of the Dead, which I saw probably when I was 12, and I still think it's still my favorite zombie film. Period. George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead is my favorite. A lot of people's favorite is Day. I can't quite embrace Day the same way that Dawn just blew me away. I mean, just the way they used the shopping mall to great effect. Now, okay, one thing I was going to mention, even though the scene is over now, but there was a bedroom scene involving these characters, and I had to look up the definition of squonk because apparently they use the word squonk several times. Squoonk. I had to look this up. According to Wikipedia, the squonk is a mythical creature that is reported to live in the hemlock forest of northern Pennsylvania in the United States. That being said, because this is set in northern Italy and not Pennsylvania, I'm pretty certain that they were not referring to this mythical creature, but in fact, it's really just there's another definition, and that is to produce a raucous noise like a squawk or honk, and that makes much more sense. But I never would have guessed that the squonk was a mythical creature that is reputed to live in the hemlock forest of northern Pennsylvania. And I just talked about Dawn of the Dead just now. So coincidence? I don't know. I mean, I don't think that Bava and the writers were referring to that creature when they were making this movie. And here we have teenagers arriving at the resort to have some fun. Oh, I mean, this is actually a beautifully shot movie. I mean, a lot of the giallos I've noticed that I'm discovering more of them tend to be so. Nice yellow car too. But yeah, see, that is basically all you're gonna see. I mean, they had to really sell the fact that they were in a forest, and they ended up buying a lot of foliage from I think different florists and everything just to cover up the fact that they were A, not in the middle of nowhere, and B, certainly near no forest. I mean, it is quite shocking how well they pulled this off. I mean, particularly after you've seen the movie. Now, I love the haircuts in this movie. It's very, very early 70s, very Europe in the early 70s. These massive mounds of hair, which we would later see in the Friday the 13th film. So here again, I mean, there's too many connections. I mean, it's this movie was prophetic. It was downright prophetic of the entire slasher genre, namely Friday the 13th. That shot, that's directly taken from the first one, I believe. I mean, there's so many of them, especially when they're walking out on the water. Yeah, just ready for some, fun. A lot of sex, a lot of good stuff going to be happening. Like, woo, damn, that dress is, yeah. uh, Now, as you can see, this resort also has a swimming pool, which hasn't been properly taken care of, and God knows how long. Yes, all the Baba movies you've seen look fantastic. I'm inclined to believe that. I'm going to be catching up with Bava here pretty soon, especially after One Night in Soho. Going to be catching up with a lot of Bava, a lot of Argento, um, you know, giallo films galore. It's going to be I don't think it's going to become my favorite genre, but I'm definitely going to watch a hell of a lot more. Believe it or not, my favorite genre of all time is actually the most obsolete, and that's silent movies. I'm not kidding. I mean, I have a special affinity for the silent genre, and there are several shots in this movie. Well, the music in this movie, you know, some of the piano music could easily have been lifted from a silent film. And oh, these images, they're unbelievable. A veil of fear or the unique feel of nothing. Yeah. Yeah, this was definitely a perfect film to choose for Halloween night. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, and this is a very twisted film. When I rewatched this, I was actually reminded of how twisted this movie was. I mean, not just how far it goes with the gore and the, well, one of the alternate titles is Carnage, if that tells you anything. But here again, I still prefer the title Twitch of the Death Nerve. It's the title that I first saw this movie under. It's the title that Leonard Maltin saw it under, and that's why it was published in his book as such. I mean, if you want to refer to it as Bay of Blood and be and Bay of Blood as a purist, I completely understand that. But to me, this movie is Twitch of the Death Nerve, and I just love that title. I love. There's actually a podcast out there run by Sam Deacon, who is a film critic, and she did a commentary recently for Kino's Britannia Hospital. If any of you want to check that out, that is actually has quite a bit of body horror in it, even though it's technically a satire on the idiocracy that we live in today. It's a very prophetic movie in its own right, and it's notable as having Mark Hamill, who I talked about recently on the Child's Play remake on Saturday night, actually smoking a bunch of doobies and laughing at the at what's going on at this hospital when the Queen Mother is visiting and there's protesters outside. You know, the health system is in shambles. The administrators are going nuts because they don't know how to control everything. This movie is insane. It's prophetic. Body horror takes over the final third of the movie with Malcolm McDowell as a stitched up Frankenstein. Oh my God. Check Britannia Hospital out. Buy the Kino version. Buy the Kino version just for that commentary as well. It was given a much more elaborate edition in England earlier in the year, last year. But man, I've been pimping Britannia Hospital ever since I rewatched it. Great Lindsay Anderson film with Malcolm McDowell that every fan of not just body horror, but every fan of satire and British films, they need to check out Britannia Hospital. It is one of the greats to ever come out of that country, period. Now, speaking of weird, obscure movies like this, Twitch of the Death Nerve apparently, in terms of its plot, owes a lot to the film La Ronde. Now, I got to admit, when I first read that, I was thinking, now, wait a minute. There's a couple of films named La Ronde. There is the French film directed by Max Ophuls in 1950, which shows amorous encounters across the social spectrum from a street prostitute to a nobleman, which each scene involving one character from the previous episode. And the French term can mean any of the following: circling around, doing the rounds, a round of drinks, a circular dance. And it won the BAFTA for Best Film in 1950. But there is a horror film that was made later, I believe, in England that also shares that title, and here again is also known under multiple titles. But I think they're referring to the Max Ophuls film. And I've never seen La Ronde. However, I have seen his other movies, notably Le Plaisier, The Earrings of Madame de, and what was his last film? His last film was that Technicolor Marvel, Lola Montez. Yes, Lola Montez from 1955, which was released by Criterion, which is about tells the story of Martine Carol's notorious affairs with like Ludwig the First of Bavaria, and it's a very colorful and very expensive movie that is astonishing to behold. But bottom line is Max Ophuls is Ophuls. Here again, I know French. I got to learn French. but he's one of the landmark directors in France, and obviously Bava is borrowing a little bit from him in terms of how this plot is going around. Like a swimming pool. So, but yeah, and anyway, I here again, I love the setting. And even if some of it is artificial and some of it is, made up or whatever, I adore the setting for this movie. And yes, you do feel like you're in the middle of nowhere, despite the fact that they touch everything up with foliage and trees and whatever green they were able to get their hands on. I mean, it's really astonishing what they were able to pull off here. And here again, some of these beautiful shots inside the house itself. But these characters are about to experience death, like few characters have in horror movies. I mean, watching this again, I was actually struck by how shocking some of these death scenes are, and how Bava likes to linger on them. And yet, at the same time, I don't find them necessarily disgusting, but kind of gorgeous, dare I say it. I mean, the one with the octopus is going to make a lot of people squirm, I think, for understandable reasons. I mean, I was looking at that with my jaw dropped. I was like, "Oh my god, man! they're actually doing it this way." No fear. Now, yeah, and here's a shot that is literally from Friday the 13th Part 2. I immediately, I mean, everybody knows what character I'm thinking of. I got to double check again. But she wears the Mickey Mouse T-shirt in Friday the 13th Part 2, and she just decides to do a little skinny dipping in the middle of in the middle of nowhere, knowing that anybody could probably pop up and watch. I believe it's Kristen Baker as Terry McCarthy. I could be wrong. If I am wrong, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that is the actress and the character in Friday the 13th Part 2 that actually does this very long skinny dipping shot. Now, of course, in Friday the 13th, the final chapter, they go skinny dipping. I mean, it's kind of it's kind of a trope in all those movies that there has to be, one of the girls has to get naked and they have to jump in the pool or the lake or whatever the case may be. Well, and she does a little swim out here in the lake. Gorgeous shot. Oh my God. And she's about to, here again, have a massive wake up call. And the spear is foreshadowed as well. Here again, Friday the 13th Part 2 is in full drive here. I mean, there's other shots that are taken directly from Friday the 13th, the first movie, but there's a lot of Part 2 in this. And yep, we got some nudity as she's splashing around in the water here. And they're about to get down and do some partying. Now, yeah, I mean, oh man, I wish I had forgotten why the guy didn't go with her. I guess she just wanted to go skinny dipping on her own, but it looks fairly warm. I mean, this is probably either spring or summer, I would imagine. I'm not really sure, but I mean, this is obviously probably a very warm climate, enough for her to go skinny dipping with that. I mean, unfortunately, in like Friday the 13th, I mean, we learn of like one of the actresses like nearly froze to death out on the lake, whether it was due to miscommunication or whatnot. But no, I mean, it looks like when they shot this, that they were in fairly pleasant weather and temperatures and everything. Which of course would make the production go a lot more smoother. But yeah, I mean, just the like the yellow on the door. I mean, the colors when they burst out of this movie, like other films of the period. I mean, it really comes out at you. And of course, here is the infamous bed, where we're gonna get a very infamous death scene later on. Um, Now, see, this is a house I wouldn't mind living in. This is definitely a house I wouldn't mind living in. As it is right now, there's something about 1970s production design which I find so appealing. Even though there's a lot of browns and yellows, very heavy emphasis on browns and yellows throughout this movie. That became the thing in the 1970s. And Bava builds this. I mean, he builds this. I mean, in terms of the suspense and everything, because she's swimming around. There appears to be nobody around, and yet somebody could be looking at her from above the dock, and would she have noticed? I mean, well, she probably would have noticed by now. But the way the camera moves, it's almost as if somebody is watching her, which of course gives it a bit of verisimilitude. And this was something, of course, the Friday the 13th films had employed, the POV technique of the killer. But in this instance, this is going to be a different type of shock scene where her foot gets caught on a rope. And who's about to come to the surface here? Oh my God, there's a dead body actually coming to the surface. She hasn't noticed yet. Oh, now imagine being extremely vulnerable like that. And this just comes out of nowhere. Time to get the shots. That shot, that is directly from the first Friday the 13th, or taken specifically for the first Friday the 13th, of her running down the dock. And of course, there's a lot more later on, but we're just getting started here. We are just getting started. I mean, the exciting incident in a movie happens to happen at the 30-minute mark, and we just had it right there when she discovers that dead body in the lake. And here she is running back up to the house, and something's afoot. Things are going on. What is going on? These shots are very, very claustrophobic. Oh man. And can you imagine, I mean, get that camera up there and do this rotating shot capturing all these shadows and everything. It's like every crevice like somebody or something could hide in. And that makes this film all the more creepy. This is a very, very effective and very gorgeously mounted giallo in so many ways. I mean, here again, this was shot by Bava himself. Gorgeous, just gorgeous. I mean, it's weird that Dino De Laurentiis was the person that kind of triggered this entire movie from the very beginning. I mean, this is the guy that later produced King Kong and Conan the Barbarian and Breakdown, which is one of my favorites with Kurt Russell in terms of the horror thriller genre. But it's shocking to think that he, of all people, is responsible for ultimately giving the green light for this film. And Bava, who had directed a couple of body count movies before this, oh yes, one of many shots involving a machete. Uh, and this one is damn. That's the twitch of the death nerve right there, literally. And just have her dead with the eyes staring out and everything, and the legs. Oh man, great money shots of the magic hour, as it's known in movies, with the sun setting. Although I got to say, for the wrong reasons, the most famous of all sunsets in movies is probably in the Green Berets, the John Wayne film, which is probably one of the worst movies I've ever seen, and that's coming from somebody that has a military background. And apparently, they decided to end the movie with the sun setting in the east. Here again, the most infamous sunset in a movie. Although it also makes me think of the Goofy cartoon where the sun actually sets in the water and it begins to steam as if the sun is actually entering the water. But anyway, enough of that. So here we have the most famous murder scene of this movie for many reasons. But first, we need a few POV shots. Here again, spectacular. I love this entire sequence. How it begins and how it ends. It's a perfect buildup. I mean, we know somebody's walking around. Somebody is creeping up to the resort. Who is it? We don't know. Oh, little things like a pot just falling over, just little things like that, just really build it up. And as, of course, the one couple is upstairs making out, having a bit of sex, we have. Oh! Just opens up the door and a machete right in the face. Right in the face. And we're going to have this horrific shot, this spellbinding shot of it going out of focus. And it's literally taken out of his face. Oh, these makeup effects are extraordinary, particularly for the time. Yeah, I can't hear a needle drop at this point, but we know that this machete killer is now making his way up the stairs to the couple having sex. Oh, yes. Mario Bava, Maestro of the Macabre, is an informative documentary available on YouTube. It talks about his approach to filmmaking and his disinterest in anything other than creating striking images. I should have watched that earlier today. I must admit, I should have watched that earlier today. So thank you very much for that recommendation. That is awesome. Mm-hmm. Past the yellow door. Now, oh man, you already see the spear in the shot, hovering over this couple having sex, and then boom! Right through both of them. But the extraordinary thing is that they're still fucking. They are still having sex. I love it. I mean, they were gonna have sex to the very end, baby. I mean, you want to call those just death nerves? No. They were into it. They were so into it that they had no idea what went through both of their bodies right then and there. They don't have a clue. They were just so into the sex that it's unbelievable. Oh my god. And see, the way they do it in Friday 2, I mean, I think it's a little tainted by the fact, no pun intended, a little tainted by the fact that the girl involved in the shooting of that was 17 years old, and they had to cut the scene prior to release. But just how it's done here in this film, 10 years prior, and just the build up to it, the POV shots, all that stuff. It's done, I'm sorry to say, 10 times better. Okay, Friday the 13th, as much as I love it, I mean, you could clearly see how much they were mere copycats, and they were. I mean, everybody acknowledges at this point that they were copycats of Twitch of the Death Nerve, and of course later John Carpenter's Halloween. But at the same time, if you're going to rip off something, rip off the best. That's what they always say. But I mean, But here again, I think now in this day and age, I think that Friday the 13th fans must see this movie. I think it's a prerequisite for the genre, and thus I do believe it is a must see for any Friday the 13th fan. It's just impossible to overlook. It really is. I mean, considering everything that this is landmark. This is definitely landmark, just as Psycho was 10 years before this. In 1960, I could be wrong, but I think most horror genre historians consider the maturing of the genre to have taken place in 1960 with Psycho and Peeping Tom, just as in 1968 the maturing of the sci-fi genre was with 2001: A Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick and Planet of the Apes. So the 1960s was really when these film genres really, really bloomed and blossomed. I mean, Night of Living Dead, and later, of course, we had Black Christmas, is what my personal favorite. I mean, in 1974, when you consider it was going up against Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is pretty heavy competition, but I prefer Black Christmas, believe it or not. Twitch of the Death Nerve, it was like a perfect bridge between both of those decades in terms of horror. Absolutely perfect bridge. New decade. Well, you're about to see some shit you've never seen before, ladies and gentlemen. Oh yes. And like I said, this came out in September of 1971. So, we're pretty much celebrating the 50th anniversary of this movie. And just to give everybody a timestamp, we are approximately halfway through the 84-minute runtime. We are now at the 41-minute and 40-second mark, 41:40. To anybody else who wants to jump in. Oh yeah, these shots are just glorious. They're just absolutely glorious. Okay, now this is probably the perfect time to talk about Claudine Auger, who appears here. She was actually Miss World's pick from France in 1958. Now, but she is known primarily now as being the Bond girl from Thunderball. She plays Largo's daughter, who just 1 second, so I don't screw this up. But look, I've seen Thunderball 1,000 times since I was a kid, and it's amazing that I can't think of her Domino. It's her character name, of course. Yeah, she played Domino in Thunderball, and that I'm glad that Edgar Wright did a massive salute to Thunderball in Last Night in Soho, because the very first shot of her arriving back in 1965, we see a giant billboard in front of her for the James Bond film Thunderball. But her voice was actually dubbed in that movie, but it doesn't matter because she is without a doubt one of the most strikingly beautiful Bond girls that we've ever had. She's a personal favorite to me. I mean, part of it because I saw Thunderball so many times as a kid, but also because Luciana Paluzzi, who is a Italian actress who is still with us, played Fiona Volpe in Thunderball. And I have a thing for redheads, okay? Her bedroom scene with Bond is without a doubt one of the most graphic of the decade. It is very sensual, lots of skin. Maybe not all, maybe not nudity altogether, but man, there is a lot of skin in that movie. And also with Claudine Auger here, apparently when she and Bond embrace under the ocean and go down under the rocks. I mean, what you can't really kiss, so I don't. So I don't know exactly what they were trying to do, but we see her top, the top of her bikini float up above as she and Bond disappear. But that was cut because apparently the censors thought that would be too suggestive. I mean, Really? Give me a fucking break, okay? I mean, look, Bond's going to do his business wherever he wants, whether it's under the ocean or in the bedroom or out in space. Bond has done it everywhere. And here again, Claudine Auger is one of my absolute favorite Bond girls, despite the fact that she was dubbed. But I mean, she's done actually a lot more than just Thunderball and, of course, Twitch of the Death Nerve here. Just real quick, I want to be able to. Yeah, I mean, I was looking through her resume earlier, and yeah, I mean, she has a lot of credits. A lot of credits starting in 1958 when she was first runner-up in the World Miss World contest. She had done like the Seven Deadly Sins, um, many films of the 70s. Hell, she was also in Black Belly of the Tarantula that came out this year as well. But a lot of Italian films, and her last movie role was in 1995. But and she just passed away in December of 2019. So you know, here again, I mean, another reason why I think this was a perfect choice for Halloween night. You know, not just because of the fact that it's a landmark horror film, but also because of its pedigree. Although, to be perfectly honest, if you want me to go into detail about all these other Italian actors, I'm sorry to say I won't be able to do that. I would need another year of studying this genre and these actors before I got to that point. But look, I wanted to talk about Claudine Auger in particular, just because I had seen Thunderball many times growing up, and she became a favorite. But here again, another reason why you guys need to see Edgar Wright's Last Night in Soho. Mm-hmm. Knows your father very well. So, I mean, we're meeting these other characters, wondering, okay, obviously they all want to gain possession of this resort, but who is doing the killings? Is it one person? Is it multiple people? That's what I'm saying. We're kept in the dark for much of this movie as to who or who all is committing all these murders. And I mean, there's a twist at the end, which I'm not sure if everybody was on board with back in 1971. And it's interesting what people today, how they would react to this twist that is going to be coming at the end of the movie. But I actually think it's perfectly executed in terms of everything we see before. I mean, we're presented all these elaborate graphic death sequences. These gorgeous shots of this quote unquote resort, which really isn't much of a resort. I mean, here again, most of the foliage is artificial, for God's sakes. But the way this caps is going to be an interesting surprise, I think, to a lot of people. I actually find it hilarious, and I really got a kick out of it when I rewatched it just earlier today. And everybody, we are currently at the 48-minute mark for anybody who wants to join in. We are currently at 48 minutes. Yeah. How you doing, Jamie? Yes, happy Halloween to you too. Yeah. I just told everybody, I mean, if you want to bring Twitch of the Death Nerve up on Shudder, we just passed the 48-minute mark. We're about to approach 48:20 here for Mario Bava's Twitch of the Death Nerve. And yeah, I mean, as a Friday the 13th fan, this is like one of the great fan films this is like a great fan film, even though it predates that entire franchise. And here again, I think the appropriate word is prophecies. This movie prophesies that entire genre and that entire franchise, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I mean, I want to mention also real quick that earlier today I was able to watch some Halloween favorites like Hocus Pocus and Fade to Black, and the Evil Dead films, Evil Dead 1 and 2. So I've already watched my fair share of horror films today, and this is going to be the last one. Oh, now see, at first you think that this is some kind of snake, but no, actually, it's not. Claudine Auger has, of course, been looking for her father, and there he is with a giant, slimy octopus covering his face and just wriggling all over and slimpering all over. Oh God! I mean, think of any like cringy word you want to come up with, but this is just amazing. And bravo to the actor. I mean, who had to deal with this giant octopus just squirming all over his face. Oh my God! Oh my God! It is so awesome. And he just picks it up, yanks it back in the lake. So this lake is known for its octopi. This lake has a lot and lots of octopi that you have to be be prepared for. And here again, the design and structure of this house is amazing. I mean, it reminds me of other films that use like these European houses to great effect, like in The Black Cat from 1934. I mean, this director Mario Bava knew how to turn this location into a real nightmare zone, and he's really gone out of his way to do that. So. Now, this hatchet right here is going to obviously be used for a murder later. And that murder, of course, made me think of the death in the first Friday the 13th of, oh man, see here again, I'm trying to think of character names. Kevin Bacon's girlfriend that gets killed by the hatchet uh, in the um, in the bathroom. Yeah, Janine Taylor's Marcy when she gets the hatchet in the face. That's what that murder reminds me of that. I got to watch Fade to Black for the first time last week. Can't believe I had never seen it. I know. Now, here's the thing about Fade to Black. I need to mention it real quick because my lady friend loved it, and I said, look, well, she liked it a lot. I don't know if she loved it. I better not put words in, but I know, but she did like it overall. And but I think she appreciated the fact that that there was an elaborate homage to the Marilyn Monroe Laurence Olivier film, The Prince and the Showgirl from 1957. Now, seriously, there is no other slasher film that will ever have an elaborate homage to The Prince and the Showgirl from 1957. It's not even considered one of Marilyn Monroe's best works. But here again, and also there are connections to White Heat with James Cagney. I mean, there is a Psycho tribute as well, Night Living Dead tribute. I mean, we see yeah, Richard Widmark starring in White Heat is famous for a death where he pushes somebody in a wheelchair down the stairs. Again, from Friday the 13th Part 2. We keep on going back to Friday the 13th Part 2 with this movie. And no matter what I talk about, we all go back to the Friday the 13th movies. Damn. So, but I already lost count of how many bodies there are so far. So I watched the Child's Play remake last night and I liked it a lot. I was pleasantly surprised. Yeah, I unfortunately I that was one that I struggled with the commentary. Once again, I'm going to reiterate. I don't hate the movie. I actually appreciate a lot of what they do, and I do think the best thing about it is Mark Hamill as the voice of the Chucky robot. Um, that being said, I mean Audrey Plaza and the rest of the cast did absolutely nothing for me. But the biggest problem I had was that Buddy as a robot was just it didn't have the same effect that the good guy doll does with Brad Dourif's voice. It just doesn't have that effect on me the same way that Brad Dourif from the original had. But I mean, in rewatching it, there were things that I absolutely appreciated about it. I just wish they didn't borrow too much from the original in terms of names. And I also wish that they had done a lot more with the technology premise. I don't think we're going to have a sequel to that Child's Play remake, which I guess is just, I don't want to say it's just as well, because here again, I did say during the commentary, Jamie, that look, I know that there are people out there that were probably very surprised by this movie, whether they're familiar with Child's Play or not. I can see some teenagers going to see that movie, never having seen Child's Play before, and they probably enjoyed quite a bit. And here again, there were moments where I had fun. It's not boring. And yet at the same time, I struggled getting through that commentary. I just ran out of things to say. I mean, I started talking about Tim Matheson from Heart of Dixie. I was running out of things to say. I mean, but I'm glad I watched it again. I am actually glad I watched it again, and that even though it's kind of neck and neck with Child's Play 3 as my least favorite movie of the franchise, I can't dismiss it entirely. I can't dismiss it entirely at all. I mean, here again, I still think the best thing about the Child's Play remake is Mark Hamill singing the Buddy song over the end credits. It just, I mean, that made me chuckle. I mean, it was one of the things I walked out with like a half a smile. I was like, you know what? I will give them credit for doing everything they did with that. I never liked the original that much. It wasn't really scary to me, but this new one seems plausible as for AI is concerned. Scared me for oh, it did. Well, see, and that's the thing. That's a different take that I could definitely see and understand. I can definitely see and understand that. I mean, of course, the original has to me the scariest shot in the entire series for me, when burned out Chucky is waving his knife over Andy. But here I can see that. I can definitely see exactly where you're coming from, Jamie. I mean, yeah, AI is getting more and more a thing, and it is getting scary. But I don't know. I mean, it just didn't quite work for me the way it worked for some others. But here again, I did acknowledge it was one of the more interesting horror remakes, and it's certainly better than Nightmare on Elm Street or others of that in terms of remakes. I mean, it's definitely got a lot more going for it than other films. I just wish it had a bit more of a satiric bite to it. I guess you could say. But here again, I'm glad it worked for other people. I am really glad it worked for other people. But I'm already into that Chucky series now. And yes, I will reiterate what I said last Saturday night, but this Saturday night at 10 p.m., I will be doing commentary for the first 4 episodes of Chucky. So this Saturday night, November 6th at 10 p.m. Eastern, commentary for the first 4 Chucky episodes. And I'm definitely looking forward to it. Again, happy Halloween to everybody in the chat. Thank you so much for joining me tonight for Twitch of the Death Nerve, which I'm watching on Shudder right now. And we are approximately at the 58-minute mark. Anybody that wants to jump in, go to 58 minutes on your copy of Twitch of the Death Nerve. And we can finish the movie together with 26 minutes left to go. Now, I think we're already past most of the Friday the 13th references and gimmicks that were essentially stolen. I mean, that's the thing. Friday the 13th Part 2 actually owes its entire existence not only to Twitch of the Death Nerve, but also The Town That Dreaded Sundown, which was based on a true story of a sack-wearing serial killer in Texas. And it's got that very famous cover art of this the sack head killer. I think he was called the Honeymoon Killer or something in the 1940s. But it's based on a true story about a number of deaths that happened in a Texas town. And it was a low-budget film in 1976, but it was distributed by Warner Brothers, which is surprising that they actually decided to release a film from the guy that made millions off The Legend of Boggy Creek, which is this this I don't know. It's a Bigfoot horror movie set in, I don't know, Kentucky or Tennessee. I got to look it up, but it's set somewhere out there where we deal with Bigfoot, and it's one of the more infamous low budget films. I mean, it's definitely interesting to watch just for its place in film history, but the Boggy Creek films I don't think are all that good. And I actually believe in Bigfoot. I mean, I actually do believe in this giant hairy ape-like creature walking around Canada and the United States and the Himalayas. I actually do believe they exist. And of course, they've been making movies about the invisible snowman since the 1950s. But I mean, watching those movies, it's impossible to take them seriously now. And a lot of those movies, I think, were just a rip off of the original thing anyway. Yeah, he loves doing these close up and out of focus shots, which are very, very effective here. Lots of yellow, lots of red, Here's the shot I'm talking about from the first Friday the 13th movie. And then we get an actual beheading, and then this jump cut to somebody dropping a actual head on the floor. It's brilliant. It's brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Oh, it's these two kids. Okay. But yeah, this is about to be wrapped up here pretty soon. Here again, I love the moonlighting in the back. Now, I mean, I read a lot of stuff on IMDb prior to jumping on board here, and some people complained about this movie being too dark in a lot of scenes. I don't, it's dark, but this is the kind of dark I can still watch and not be phased by it or anyway, or even annoyed by it. I mean, I see just enough detail. Like I said, the moonlighting in the back, I think, is given just the right amount of illumination, even in terms of shining through all this artificial foliage. But yeah, that scene with the hatchet, immediately made me think of the over the head shot of Tom Savini when he gives Marcy that hatchet in the face in the first Friday movie. Um, like I said, Sean S. Cunningham and Steve Miner studied this film to death. Pun intended. They studied it to the death nerve. Okay, I mean, if you prefer it that way. And that's the thing, is that outside of like hardcore horror fans in 1981, I don't, no, none of the teenagers knew where this was drawing its influence from. So, perfectly fine. I mean, you discover it in another film that, and you jump to this film, you're like, so this is where they learned everything. This was basically film school for Sean S. Cunningham and Steve Miner. This movie right here. Oh yeah, and I love these long shots of the pier. I mean, there's a lot of pier shots in the original too. Friday. Mm. Yes, happy Halloween to you, Dan. Hey Dan, give me your thoughts real quick on Twitch of the Death Nerve. I mean, we have approximately 20 minutes left to go, but give me your quick takes on Twitch of the Death Nerve so I can post it on the screen here in the last 20 minutes. And once again, thank you everybody so much for joining me tonight. Cornelius, thank you ever so much. Cliff Booth, you guys are awesome. Seriously. Jamie, thank you so much. And of course, Dan, thank you so much for joining me tonight for Twitch of the Death Nerve. Is this the best horror film of 1971? Maybe. I mean, considering all the titles I listed before, I mean, there's some good competition here. But yeah, this may be, in retrospect, this may be the horror film of 1971. Absolutely. Now, yeah, earlier these two characters were in bed. Oh, now there is a specific point. It's coming up here in the next couple minutes. But there's another weird prophetic connection to Friday the 13th. If you apply, I mean, that's the thing. I think we do an actual list. I mean, you could come up with at least 50 bullet points between this and the first two Fridays very, very easily. Oh, this shot creeping in. And see, that's the thing. I mean, Friday 2, even though I like Friday 2 now, it's one of my it, I don't love it as much as other Friday fans. And I think part of it is due to the fact that not because of all the influences it has, but just Sackhead Jason never worked for me. I do like the final girl, even though I do think that she does some stupid things. But then again, all the characters in those movies do stupid things at some point. There's a particular shot where there's a particular sequence where she's trying to run away from Jason, and Jason like nearly grabs her, and it's all quiet. And it's supposed to be scary as hell, but in reality, I kind of laughed at that moment. I'm like, "You idiot! Just keep following her." I want to yell at the screen for that. And of course, Jason would have to be the. I mean, I know Jason is supposed to be mentally challenged, but come on, why did he only cut one hole in his sack? Okay, explain that to me. No killer would have cut one eye in the sack. I mean, you know, he could have cut both eyes because I mean, then his vision is obscured. I mean, okay, maybe that explains why he wasn't able to catch her in that jump. Okay, fine. So I just made everything perfectly fine for Friday the 13th Part 2. But I will say my favorite fact when it comes to Friday 2 is the fact that of course what's her name I mean what's his name in the wheelchair? I refresh my memory. Does anybody know that character's name real quick? I gotta look it up. Oh man, Mark. Yeah, Tom McBride is Mark. Well, I love how his date Sandra, played by oh no, not her. See, I mean, I get a lot of these names mixed up, but anyway, Lauren Marie Taylor as Vicky. His date Vicky. She actually walks up the stairs yelling Mark's name. Mark, are you up here? Valerie. He's in a wheelchair, paralyzed from the waist down. Why would he be upstairs? They pointed that out during the commentary on the Friday the 13th part 2 disc in the box set when they did the cast commentary. They actually pointed that out. And I thought that is awesome. And now I'm officially a fan of Friday 2 because of that reason. Because before it took me many years to appreciate Friday 2. I mean, the opening still bothers me where we have to redo this entire Friday sequence right in front of just to kick things off, and you're like, get on with it. And then they have the gall to kill the final girl from the original. I'm not a particular fan of that. And then the rest of the movie is like a Xerox copy of the original. But here again, I've come to appreciate it and watch it more and more over the years. And for the most part, I love watching Friday 1 through 6 as in one night. That's a one night sitting right there. It ended with them on the 13th of February. Now, look, if that okay, I haven't looked it up yet in terms of the calendar, but if that is a Friday, if the 13th of February in 1971 was a Friday, that's going to send chills through my body. I'm actually going to look right now. I didn't get a chance to look before. Oh no. Who wants to take bets right now that February 13th in 1971 is a Friday? Anybody want to take any bets? It's actually a Saturday, so close enough, I guess. But when I first heard that on my second viewing today, I thought to myself, "Oh no, don't tell me that's actually Friday. No, it's actually Saturday." Mario Bava is an icon, and A Bay of Blood is a fantastic film. Yes, indeed, it is. Yes. Mark, yes. Thank you, Jamie. I mean, yeah, there's been so many Friday the 13th characters. I mean, just to try to remember all of them. And I feel like we're on Lauren's game show where we had to list all the characters from The Thing. And I literally was like, oh my God, I don't remember any of their names. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, I've seen the movie many times, and yet I can't, struggle to come up with their names. Oh my God. So many character names, though. Now, okay, so we're about to enter. We are at the 1 hour. We're almost to the 1 hour and 11 minute mark. So there's about 13 minutes left here. We're about to wrap this up. Here again, thank you everybody much for joining me on this Halloween night and enjoying this movie with me, because this is definitely one of the landmarks of the genre. And I was so happy to see it again ever since high school. But I'm wondering if I was going to watch all Bava's films one after the other and did a ranking, I wonder if this would be at the top of the list. It may be. It may be at the top of the list. I mean, maybe Blood and Black Lace would change my mind. Maybe one of his other films, possibly. But this one is pretty damn good, and it absolutely holds up in so many ways. All right, I just realized they're both wearing white sweaters here. I don't know if that was intentional, but and like I said, all throughout this movie, we've had elaborate death after elaborate death after elaborate death, and we linger on them. And as a bonus, in one death sequence, we actually had an octopus. I mean, you can't get any better than that, I think. Yeah, Black Sunday for me. Yeah, a lot of people like Black Sunday too. I mean, here again, I mean, like Fulci, I've actually seen a lot of Fulci's early films. I still need to watch most of Bava's films. I'm ashamed to say I've actually seen Lamberto Bava's The Demon movies from the 1980s. I've seen those more times. And Mario didn't really have anything to do with those, from what I understand. But as far as Italian horror and giallo, this was without a doubt my first foray into that genre when I saw this film at 13 or 14 years old, getting a copy from the library. Black Sunday for me too as well. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, Black Sunday will be the next one I watch on my Baba list. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. And here again, if you're a purist out there who wants to refer to this film under its original title, A Bay of Blood, more power to you. That's how it's released on the Kino Classics Blu-ray for anybody that wants to buy it. And actually, just real quick, let me, because I'm actually watching this on Shudder, but let me see. Yeah, the Blu-ray came out in 2013, and it's got a pretty good review over at Blu-ray.com. There's a audio commentary with Bava expert and video watchdog editor Tim Lucas, an illuminating lecture discussing the making of its film and its eventual influence. If you've never been able to appreciate Bava's work, Lucas's exposition may open these movies up for you in ways you wouldn't expect. We also have the Italian cut of Bay and Blood, which is sourced from an inferior master. And those are the extra feature. Those are the two bonus features on the Kino Classics Blu-ray of A Bay of Blood. And in fact, their final assessment of the film is, in fact, Mario Bava's most violent film is also arguably his most influential. A Bay of Blood, with its high body count, creepy POV shots, and machete-wielding killer who takes particular relish in offering a bunch of horny young adults, essentially set the template for what in the late 70s and early 80s would become the slasher. For anyone interested not only in horror but also the history of the genre, A Bay of Blood, which sometimes go by the more brutal title Twitch of the Death Nerve, is mandatory viewing. And I agree with every single word that he said in that review at Blu-ray.com. That was written by Casey Broadwater for the 2013 Blu-ray release. Okay, and we have about 9 minutes here, but we still have some blood. We still have some blood to drain out of the film before we conclude. Sign a statement inheriting the property. Yeah, I mean, like I said, this was all about these different characters gaining control of this property. And as much as I like Black Sunday, I think I like his work in color the most. This movie is on YouTube, by the way. Okay, great. Great. I might do a commentary on that too. See, when did Black Sunday? Oh, it came out in 1960, same year as Psycho and Peeping Tom. There we go. There we go. Honestly, you can't go wrong with Mario Bava. Oh yes. Oh yes, absolutely. And I think I said it once before in the commentary, but I think the only Italian horror I saw prior to this one, I'm 100% sure it was Lucio Fulci's Zombie, aka Zombie 2, which in Europe was released as the Dawn of the Dead sequel, even though it, really had nothing to do with Dawn of the Dead or any of the characters from Dawn of the Dead. But that was my first Italian horror. Twitch of the Death Nerve is without a doubt my first foray into giallo. And that was, like I said, when I was 13 or 14 years old. And oh, we got more blood. We got more blood. Yes, indeed. And once again, this is the lovely Claudine Auger from Thunderball and many other films of the 60s and 70s and 80s. Just passed away in December of 2019, very, very sadly. So here again, another asterisk for this film that makes it a little bit more special than I think most films of the period. I mean, you could easily look at that as being similar to Bill's death from the first Friday the 13th as well. Ah! And finally, the body droops down. That is awesome. That is awesome. Absolutely. And here again, we got these scenes out on the lake during the night. Very, very windy. You can feel the chill of the wind, literally at this point. 5 minutes left to go. 5 minutes left to go, and we are about to showcase the twist. Who's going to have the last laugh? Who's going to have the last murder in this film? I mean, going by the idea that there were multiple killers throughout this movie, There's only a few there. There's only going to be a couple left. I will say that right now. There's going to be a couple left, but not who you think they're going to be, or at least throughout the movie. I mean, I never would have suspected it would have ended with these two people. I'll be watching the 1985 TV movie The Midnight Hour tonight, which will make 42 films watched this month. Oh, wow. Running out of matches. That's always terrible in a horror movie when you're so low on matches. Always terrible. Oh man. Oh man. It's building. What's going to happen? Oh my God. Yeah, I'm sorry, everybody. Less than 5 minutes ago, and I've already said everything I needed to say. Now it's just enjoying the last few minutes of the movie. Pretty much one match left. Oh, how maddening! How much more maddening could this get? One match left, and he's burning it right now. I need to say that one of the scariest moments I ever experienced in a movie was in the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers when Dr. Bennell lights the matches in the basement and discovers Becky in her in an alien life form state, an actual one of Becky's clones that had been planted there by her father. One of the scariest movie moments I've ever seen in a movie. That literally made me frozen with fear. Absolutely. Quick reflection of the knife before it penetrates the victim. Yeah. Oh, that was one of the 42 movies I watched this month. Oh, okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. Mhm. I don't think I've seen The Midnight Hour. I've seen a number of the landmark horror television movies. Like I've seen Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. Um, Dark Night of the Scarecrow is another one, which I believe is a staple on many people's Halloween viewing lists. So I've seen those, but I've never seen The Midnight Hour before. And also, one thing I wanted to announce right now, I might as well because I just heard from him. But the director of Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday, Adam Marcus, will be joining me in November. We don't know a date yet, but he will be joining me. Oh, now forgive me. Right when the twist happens is the shotgun appears in the camera. They're killed, and who killed them? But in fact, the two kids. I mean, you want to talk about a twisty reveal. Oh my God. Out of focus, we see both of these kids were responsible for gunning them down, and that is awesome. They're good at playing dead, aren't they? Yeah, they are. Let's go down to the bay. Hell yeah. But anyway, I was going to say Adam Marcus will be joining me for an audio commentary in November for Bob Fosse's 1983 film Star 80, starring Eric Roberts and Mariel Hemingway, about the very brief and very tragic true story of Playboy playmate Dorothy R. Stratton. We both seem to love Bob Fosse movies, and in fact, his favorite film of all time is All That Jazz. So I asked him, "Hey, you want to talk about Star 80? Yeah, let's talk about Star 80. I mean, I really do want to talk about Star 80 on a commentary. So that will be coming up sometime in November. A Star 80 commentary with the director of Jason Goes to Hell, Adam Marcus, and I very much looking forward to that. And here is, of course, the end of Twitch of the Death Nerd. Well, hey, happy Halloween, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me once again. This has been great. Even though I came into this film not a giallo expert by any stretch, I was so happy to see it again today, and I was so happy to watch it with all of you tonight. Cliff Booth, Dan Shine, Jamie, and Cornelius. Thank you, everybody, for joining me tonight. Happy Halloween to all of you. And like I said, the next commentary I'll be doing will be this Saturday night at 10 p.m., where I will be talking about the first 4 episodes of the sci-fi series created by Don Mancini, Chucky. And I am very, very much looking forward to that. After that, I don't know a day yet, but I will be doing Steven Spielberg's landmark television movie Duel, starring Dennis Weaver, where he's pursued by a truck. And then finally, for Veterans Day, I will be doing an audio commentary for my favorite movie of all time, The Best Years of Our Lives from 1946. It is a 3-hour movie about veterans returning home from World War II. And I'm going to be packing this commentary with so much information. You don't want to miss it. So at any rate, happy Halloween to all of you. Just a few more comments here real quick before I leave. Midnight Hour is a great one to close out the holiday. Absolutely. That's what I'm told, Dan. I think you and several had recommended this one over the past weeks. Cool. Good show. I am so looking forward to it. And believe me, Dan, One Night in Soho has changed everything. It is a life-changing experience for me, and that's why I'm going to be watching as many giallos as possible after this. Thank God Edgar Wright made that movie, because that movie is just one of the greatest theatrical experiences of my life. And believe me, I will be pimping it nonstop over the course of the next few weeks. But anyway, happy Halloween, everybody. I'm going to get some sleep, and you all have a good night.